Unexpected tears. Millionaire discovers amazing love behind a boy's cry. Heartwarming revelation. Mark Thompson stormed down the streets of Manhattan, his tailored suit slicing through the chaos like a knife. A millionaire in his late 40s, Mark lived for deals, dominating boardrooms with a ruthless ambition that left no room for weakness. He had cars, space in the penthouse, and a reputation that dripped with envy. Yet beneath the polished veneer, the smallest crack revealed an overwhelming silence, one that echoed loudly in his heart. That fateful afternoon changed everything. As he sidestepped bustling crowds and darted between honking taxis, a haunting wail suddenly pierced through the din. It was small but raw, a cry that clutched at something he thought long gone. He halted, instincts screaming to draw closer. Fueled by curiosity, Mark ventured into a narrow alley shrouded in shadows. There, crouched against the rough brick wall, was 8-year-old Danny. Dirt smudged his cheeks, and his eyes were pools of teary desperation. Protectively holding a small dog in his lap, the boy whispered sweet reassurances to the shivering creature who whimpered quietly in pain. Danny's fierce devotion stirred something deep within Mark, a longing he hadn't felt in years. In stark contrast to the towering apartment buildings surrounding them, Danny's world was a harsh reminder of reality. This boy, despite his pain, held his dog close, fighting the gnawing hunger and fear of a life lived in the margins. Mark's chest tightened as he stepped closer, overwhelmed by the stark differences of their worlds. "Danny," he began, his voice softening. "Let me help. We'll get your dog to a vet." But the boy's eyes hardened, a small flame of stubborn pride flickering amidst the despair. "I can take care of him," Danny insisted, cradling his pet closer, as if sealing a pact against the world. Mark hesitated, wrestling with the boy's refusal, grappling with the realization that money couldn't solve everything. "Just let me help," he urged, yet Danny shook his head fiercely. Marked by misunderstandings and frustrations, both tried to connect only to find a widening rift between them. Mark presented money to fix the dog's wounds. Danny saw it as an invasive defeat. The boy's dignity felt inexplicably fragile, while Mark felt the walls he built around himself growing heavier. Before their tension could escalate further, an unexpected presence entered the alley. A weathered veteran, clad in a frayed military jacket, appeared as if plucked from the past. His grizzled face offered wisdom born of hardship, and with a steady gaze, he knelt beside Danny. "Listen, son," he said softly. "It's not just about the money. It's about pride and respect, too." As the veteran spoke of resilience, hard work, and the true essence of community, Mark felt a rush of emotions crash over him like an unexpected wave. This man was shining a light on his own blind spots, something he had never truly considered in his pursuit of wealth. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. The tension melted in that moment, but Mark still stood at a crossroads. Would he learn to embrace the connection beyond cash? Could he grasp the lessons unfolding before him? The soft whispers of the community echoed truths he had ignored for far too long. Mark's heart began to bear the weight of recognition, and deep inside, he dared to hope could he truly find redemption in the unexpected tears of a boy who loved his dog more than anything? The question hung in the air, as a new path loomed ahead, waiting for him to take that first step. Mark felt a whirl of conflicting emotions. The weight of his own life, full of glitzy cars and investment portfolios, seemed frivolous compared to the world of this resilient boy. Standing there in that dim alley, Mark recalled how he had neglected everything that truly mattered, all for the sake of profit margins and quarterly goals. He shifted his gaze from Danny to the veteran, who spoke in steady tones about survival and holding on to what one loves. Those words resonated deeply, striking chords within Mark that had long remained silent. It was as if he had been awoken from a deep slumber, the world surrounding him suddenly feeling vivid and raw. "Why don't you take the dog to the vet with me, Danny?" he asked, his voice steady now, an unaccustomed gentleness escaping his lips. "I'll cover everything. Consider it a way to help your dog." Danny's breath hitched slightly, the flicker of hope battling with entrenched pride. His tight hold on the dog momentarily loosened, revealing the fear buried within his heart. Mark could see the boy weighing options far heavier than any adult could imagine: trust versus betrayed faith, vulnerability versus strength. "The army guy's right," Danny murmured, and for a brief moment, that stubborn pride cracked. "But what if you just want the dog for yourself?" The question lingered in the air like a delicate promise. Mark was taken aback. It was the first time someone had truly challenged him in a long while, not caring about his status or wealth. He felt surprised yet strangely alive. "I promise, I don't want your dog. I want to help you both," he replied earnestly. Danny finally lifted his gaze, uncertainty mixing with the tiniest hint of venture. The veteran placed a supportive hand on Danny's shoulder. "Sometimes, son, accepting help doesn't mean you're weak. It shows true strength to ask for support when it's needed the most." Mark echoed the sentiment, revealing a new side of himself he never knew existed. "Let us show your dog that love can heal more than just wounds. Let us turn that pain into hope." Danny fiddled with the dog's small collar, his eyes darting between Mark and the veteran. He finally nodded, albeit hesitantly, that flicker of hope igniting a small fire of courage within him. "Okay. But only if you promise it's just for his sake." "Absolutely." As they made their way out of the alley, a crack of sunlight streamed through the buildings, illuminating the path ahead. Mark found himself walking at a slower pace, mirroring the boy's cautious steps. With each stride he felt a shift within himself, a gradual release of the rigidity that had defined his existence. Danny's dog, now nestled against the boy's chest, seemed to let out a quiet sigh of relief. Mark felt a warmth seep into his chest, the first traces of something that felt remarkably like connection. Amidst the bustling crowds, a stillness wrapped around them, a pocket of space where human connection could blossom. And it was in that slice of tranquility that Mark realized this moment could redefine him. Just as they approached the vet's office, a lingering question hung in the back of his mind: was he ready to reshape his identity, stepping away from a life defined by wealth and power, toward one inspired by compassion and community? As Danny entered the office, Mark lingered for a heartbeat longer, his breath catching as he noted how many choices still lay ahead. Could he truly balance his life, finding love where he least expected? Mark's heart raced at the possibilities as they stepped into the unknown. This was just the beginning. What awaited him outside this office? Which of his walls would crumble further, and what voices would guide his changing path? The waiting room bustled with the sounds of anxious pets and concerned owners. Mark's fingers tapped nervously against the worn chair as he watched Danny pace back and forth, his fingers clenching and unclenching, revealing a mix of excitement and dread. The dog rested against Danny's side, oblivious to the tension humming in the air. "Hey, you think he's gonna be okay?" Danny finally broke the silence, his voice barely above a whisper, as he gestured towards the small animal. "Of course he will," Mark reassured him, feeling an unexpected need to ease the boy's worries. "He's in good hands now, right?" With a hesitant smile, Danny glanced up. It was a look filled with a hint of gratitude and vulnerability that tugged at Mark's heart. He recognized the sheer weight of the responsibility resting on Danny's shoulders. To a child, the loyalty of a pet often turned into a frayed lifeline, and Mark found himself wishing to share that burden, to lift the weight off the boy. Time crawled as they waited. When the veterinarian came out, she wore a warm yet serious expression. Mark's pulse quickened as he saw Danny's face pale in anticipation. "Your dog has a mild infection," she explained gently. "With medication and care, he should be perfectly fine." A breath Mark didn't know he was holding released from both their lungs in unison. Danny clenched the dog tighter, relief washing over him, the corners of his mouth twitching into a smile. "See? I told you," Mark said, the warmth spreading through him. "You both are going to get through this." They stepped outside into the sunlight, the day feeling brighter and warmer. As they walked to the car, Danny held the dog snugly, whispering sweet reassurances. Mark felt an unfamiliar tug at his heartstrings, echoing the joy of a budding friendship, a connection that went beyond their differing worlds. "Can I ask you something, Mark?" Danny's voice broke through the peaceful moment, sincerity etching his young face. "Anything. Why do you care about us?" "You're, well, different." Caught off guard, Mark took a moment to simplify the truth that swirled in his mind. "Because sometimes it takes someone from a different place to see what really matters," he said slowly. "I think we can help each other." Danny frowned but nodded, processing the answer like a puzzle piece slipping into place. As they reached the car, Mark's phone buzzed incessantly in his pocket. Business notifications flooded in reminders of meetings and deadlines waiting impatiently. He frowned at the glowing screen, the messages starkly contrasting with the warmth surrounding him in that moment. "Your phone's buzzing. Isn't it important?" Danny asked. "It can wait," Mark replied, surprising himself with the conviction in his voice. "What's important right now is getting your dog home." Danny's eyes lit up, a wide smile breaking through. "Really? Thank you for taking the time." As they buckled in for the ride home, Mark savored the rich silence filled with unspoken understanding. The world outside whirled by, a cacophony of everyday life, but within the car a quiet bond was forming, strong and heavy with meaning. With each passing moment, Mark felt the driving question taking root: what if there's more to life than just profit and success? What if love, in its simplest forms, was what truly mattered? Suddenly, a thought struck her: when was the last time he truly felt alive? His heart raced, not with anxiety but with excitement. As they pulled up to Danny's modest home, the doors swung open with hopeful anticipation. Mark felt a shift deep inside. This was the start of something meaningful. But just as they stepped out, a figure from the shadows loomed towards them, a face Mark never expected to see again. The air thickened with tension. "Mark? What are you doing here?" His stomach dropped at the question, unease creeping in. Was he ready to face the complications of his past? Mark's heart sank as he recognized the voice Hannah. She stood there, arms crossed, a blend of surprise and concern etched on her face. He had hoped this moment would never arrive, and yet here it was, drawing him back into old wounds and memories better left buried. Mark stumbled over his words. "I was just helping out Danny with his dog." The tension in the air thickened like fog. Danny, still clutching his dog protectively, looked back and forth between them, confusion knitting his brow. "You know Miss Hannah?" he asked, innocence spilling from his lips. "Yes, Danny. We know each other from a long time ago," Mark replied, glancing at Hannah. Her expression softened, revealing a hint of empathy as she registered the fragile bond he'd just begun to build with the boy. "It's nice to see you, Mark," Hannah finally said, her voice steady but cool. "I didn't know you were back in the area." "Yeah, I'm trying to do things differently," he said, scanning her expression, searching for a flicker of approval or understanding. "I wasn't expecting to run into anyone." "Apparently not." Her tone was clipped, yet Mark felt a lingering thread of history and unaddressed feelings stretching between them. Danny stepped forward, oblivious to the atmosphere. "Ms. Hannah, he was really helpful. My dog got sick, but he said everything's going to be okay now." Hannah's gaze darted back to Danny, and her features softened just a fraction. "I'm glad to hear that, Danny. Pets are family." Mark felt a surge of gratitude for Danny, who seemed all too ready to ease the tension, yet he couldn't shake the weight of the past. Memories flooded him, laughter shared, plans made, promises broken. "What brings you back, Mark?" "I thought you were done with this place," Hannah asked, her voice tinged with that signature blend of curiosity and judgment. He hesitated, caught in a whirlwind of emotions. "I guess. I'm just trying to figure out what really matters. Life can get so busy, you know." "Busy with what? Making money? Climbing some corporate ladder?" she challenged, her brow furrowing in disbelief. "Is that all you think I care about?" His voice rose unintentionally, disbelief surfacing, emotions surging. I've realized there's more to it. It's not just about success anymore. Danny shifted nervously between them, sensing the flames. Can we go inside or something? I'd like to make sure my dog is really okay. He glanced at Mark, hopeful eyes seeking reassurance. Right. Absolutely, Mark sighed, recognizing what needed to take priority. He broke eye contact with Hannah, torn between history and the present. Let us get him comfortable. As they walked towards the house, Mark stole a look back at Hannah. Her expression had softened again, reflecting a mix of regret and possibility. Mark, she called softly, just before he stepped into the threshold. We need to talk. There are things we should hash out. As the door swung shut behind him, the warmth of Danny's home enveloped him, but the chill of Hannah's words lingered in the back of his mind. Would he truly find the courage to face not only the demons of the past but also the hope of new beginnings? Inside, Danny's laughter broke the tension, his voice bubbling with excitement as he introduced Mark to his dog, giving the creature soothing pets. Mark watched, captivated by the uncomplicated joy on Danny's face. But now, as he crouched down to join in, another question consumed him: could he ever allow himself to reconnect with Hannah? And if so, what would that mean for both of their futures? The weight of decisions loomed large, and just beyond the door, he could feel the moment approaching that could change everything. Mark knelt on the floor, the dog's warm body nudging against his hand. Danny giggled, joy evident in his bright eyes as he watched his pet engage with the newcomer. For a fleeting moment, the simplicity of the moment washed over Mark, dulling the sharp edges of awkwardness outside. He patted the dog gently, focusing on the rhythm of its breathing, but his heart raced with the unresolved tension left hovering in the air. Despite the laughter that echoed in the room, he couldn't escape Hannah's voice, insisting they needed to talk. Look here, Max! Danny shouted, pulling Mark from his thoughts. Can you make him do tricks? Mark managed a smile, the boy's exuberance infectious. Sure thing, buddy. What does he know? Danny's eyes shimmered with delight. He can roll over and play dead. All right, let us see what he has got. Mark used the excitement as a distraction, tossing a treat to Max. The dog eagerly flipped onto his back, thick paws flailing in mock surrender, earning loud cheers from Danny. As laughter bounced off the walls, Mark sneaked peeks at the door, imagining Hannah standing outside, arms crossed, waiting for him. Each time Danny released a joyful yell, he felt a flicker of hope. Maybe things could be okay. But hope was a fragile thing, often shattered by reality. Why did you leave? Danny asked suddenly, tilting his head, seriousness overshadowing his playful mood. The question hit Mark like a punch. I just needed a change, Danny. Well, you should stay, Danny replied confidently. I like you? Mark's chest tightened. There was a raw honesty in the boy's words, and it pierced through his defenses. Thanks, buddy. The sincerity lingered in the air as Danny focused again on Max. Mark wrestled internally, emotions swirling like a winter storm. He wanted to stay for Danny, to protect the innocent joy that radiated from him. Yet the past loomed larger as the door remained a barrier to Hannah. Hey, are you okay? Danny asked, concern shadowing his innocent face. I'm alright, just thinking. Danny leaned in, whispering conspiratorially. Are you going to be friends with Ms. Hannah again? The simplicity of the question struck a chord. Mark's heart twisted. I don't know, Danny. Things are complicated. Complicated? Like how you get tangled up if you try to hug a squirmy dog? Danny giggled, and Mark couldn't help but chuckle, but the smile faded quickly as the laughter faded. Kind of like that. Just talk to her. You don't have to be scared. The words ignited a spark in Mark, a flicker of bravery that he desperately needed. Yes. Maybe I should. Good. Can we go outside? I want to show you my treehouse. Of course. Mark replied, relief washing over him, thankful for the boy's enthusiasm. As they rushed outside, the sun welcomed them, casting warm beams on their faces. But before Mark could take a step away from the warmth inside, he heard the soft creak of the door behind him. His heart pounded as he turned, anticipation and dread intertwining. Hannah emerged, standing on the threshold, uncertainty written across her features. Everything inside him surged, yearning to bridge the gap between their worlds, but could they truly cross it together? With the puppy bounding excitedly at his side, Mark weighed the moment, one that could change everything, again wondering if he was ready to take that leap. "Danny," he said softly, "I think I need to talk to Ms. Hannah for a minute." The boy shot him an encouraging grin, then disappeared into the sunlight, leaving Mark standing on the precipice of a conversation that echoed his own heart's beat. Could the past hold answers to the future? Mark's breath caught in his throat as Hannah took a tentative step closer, the sunlight framing her like a ghost from his past. They had shared so much, yet now they stood on opposite banks of a wide river, haunted by memories and silence. "Mark," she began, her voice wavering slightly. "I didn't expect to see you here." "Yeah, well, Danny wanted to show me his treehouse," Mark replied, his words tumbling out awkwardly as he gestured toward the backyard, where laughter rose amidst the rustling leaves. "Right." She glanced back, the tension in her shoulders still evident. "He looks happy." "Yeah, he is," Mark responded, unable to keep the warmth from creeping into his voice. "He's a great kid." They paused, the air thick with all the words unspoken. All he could think about was how easy it used to be, how their laughter filled every moment, and now, standing here, he felt like a stranger. "I'm sorry for how things ended," Hannah finally said, her eyes shimmering with something regret, sadness, maybe just the memories that hung like shadows. Mark's heart tensed. "I didn't mean to leave things the way they were. I know I hurt you." Her brow furrowed as she stepped closer, vulnerability etched in every feature. "I wanted to understand, but you shut me out. I didn't know how to reach you." "I was afraid," he admitted, the truth spilling out before he could catch himself. "Afraid of what I might say, what it might mean." "Afraid of me?" she asked softly, the hurt just a whisper now. Mark looked down, words escaping him. Memories collided, arguments that left scars, laughter shared over late-night ice cream, dreams that felt distant now. "Afraid of losing you completely," he murmured, their eyes locked, a shared history thrumming between them, aching and familiar. Danny's laughter broke through the silence, a joyful reminder of the possibilities awaiting just beyond this moment. "Can we start over?" Hannah asked, her voice a thread of hope. "I don't want things to remain how they are. For Danny's sake, for us." Mark felt a tremor of longing. "I want to, too, but I don't know how to fix everything." "Maybe we don't have to fix it all at once," she replied, her brows softening. "We can take it one step at a time. Just start talking." "Talking," Mark repeated, the words sounding foreign yet beautiful in the air. "I can do that." He smiled then, fragile but real, as each second passed seemed to pulse with potential. The walls he built around himself were beginning to tremble, piece by piece. Before he could say more, Danny burst back into the room, his little face aglow with excitement. "Ms. Hannah, you have to see my treehouse. It's south the best place ever." Hannah's smile returned bright as she knelt down, arms open wide. "Lead the way, buddy." As they stepped outside together, the sun warmed their skin, and Mark felt a glimmer of hope growing inside him. Maybe the past didn't define their future. Maybe they could build something new. With laughter lifting around him, Mark hesitated, glancing back at Hannah, an invitation lingering in the air. As the child dashed ahead, two paths converging before him, Mark knew he had a decision to make. "Hey, Hannah," he called softly, catching her before they reached the treehouse. She turned, eyebrows raised. "What if we talked about more than Danny's treehouse?" Her eyes sparkled with curiosity. "Like about what?" "About everything," he said, heart racing at the possibilities. The warmth between them deepened, and as the laughter of Danny faded into the distance, Mark realized they had a chance to write a new chapter. But would they both be brave enough to face the truths lurking in the shadows? Mark's heart raced as he considered her question, the potential of it sending a thrill through him. Behind them, Danny's joy echoed like sweet music, uncluttered, pure, and real. Life felt heavy with what had been, yet light with a flicker of what could change. Hannah stepped closer, her expression steadying, like the calm before a storm. You mean everything? Like us? What we had? Yeah. The word tumbled out. It seemed easier to say it aloud than to think it. We shared dreams, plans. It wasn't just a fling, was it? No, it wasn't. Her voice was firm now, dispelling the brokenness that lingered in the air. But life got complicated. Complicated. Mark echoed with a bitter laugh. That's one word for it. The memories resurfaced, the arguments, the silence that followed, and how it felt like losing a piece of himself as she turned away. But now, with her standing here, he felt like he had to take a risk. I think about us sometimes. I wonder if we had made different choices. Hannah looked down, her face a mixture of regret and yearning. Me too. I think about the time we spent planning our future, only to watch it crumble. She glanced at him, the warmth of memories dancing in her eyes. It wasn't just you. I pulled back too. His chest tightened with the admission. I was so caught up in my fear that I didn't let you in. What if we try? She asked, her voice soft yet resolute. What if we figure it out together? The hope in her eyes lit something deep within him. Together. The word felt like a promise, one that could heal the scars if they allowed it to. Mom! Look at this! Danny called from the treehouse, his voice ringing with excitement, pulling them from the weight of their past into the playful innocence of the present. They moved toward the sound, the sun casting fleeting shadows across the ground. Mark climbed up after Danny, his heart pounding not only from the physical exertion but the emotional leap he was about to take. The treehouse smelled of fresh wood, sunlight streaming through the little windows, illuminating the child's laughter. Mark squeezed in behind Hannah, the space tight but filled with a sense of freedom. Danny was standing triumphantly, showing off his fortress in the trees. This is the best place ever, Danny declared, his eyes sparkling with pure joy. You have to see this. He pointed toward the tiny lookout spot, where they could see the backyard stretching out below. Hannah climbed up to join him, and Mark watched. A sense of warmth enveloped him as he saw the connection between them, a thread of love woven tightly. It was pure and uncomplicated, much like how he felt about them when they were building their lives together. Look, Dad! You can see the whole yard. And the flowers, Mom! Aren't they beautiful? Danny's innocence pulled a soft smile from Hannah. She turned to Mark, her eyes shimmering again, this time with something hopeful rather than sad. Yes, right. It's beautiful. For a heartbeat, everything felt right. They shared a moment together, standing beside Danny, filled with possibilities. But as they looked through the small wooden window, Mark felt a tightening in his chest. Could they really navigate their way back through everything? Would their past entanglements allow new beginnings? Would the weight of what had been overshadow the joy of right now? I want to talk more, Hannah, about us, Mark said, his voice trembling with the uncertainty of it all. Me too, she replied, glancing toward him before turning back to watch Danny, her face illuminated by a smile that melted away old fears. But just as hope surged anew, a sudden thought gripped Mark. What if they weren't ready? What if opening that door led to more heartache? Let me know when you're ready, he said softly, the moment hanging in the air thick with potential. As Danny chattered away, they shared a glance, an understanding passing between them, one filled with both trepidation and yearning. The door was cracked open, but they were both still standing on the threshold. What lay beyond? What if the conversation they were waiting for pushed them into uncharted waters? And as laughter filled the treehouse, Mark knew that the real test of their newly kindled flame lay in the steps they would dare to take next. Would they choose to leap together, or stay frozen in fear, shackled by the echoes of their past? Danny bounced around the treehouse, his excitement spilling over like sunlight filtering through the leaves. Can we have a picnic up here? Please? His voice was sweet and bright, a perfect distraction from the weight pressing down on Mark's heart. Hannah laughed, a genuine sound that danced through the air, chasing away shadows. What a great idea! We can bring sandwiches and juice. Danny's eyes widened as he nodded fervently, bouncing even more. And cookies. Don't forget the cookies. Amidst Danny's cheer, Mark felt a flicker of hope. This moment reminded him of simpler times when worries faded and laughter took over. Yet the uncertainty still loomed like a cloud over their heads. "Let us do it," Mark suddenly said, surprising himself. "A picnic in the backyard. We'll make it a real family day." Hannah's gaze met his, and a flicker of something understanding, maybe, passed between them. "Okay, let us get everything ready." They climbed down, the rustling leaves providing a soundtrack to their plans. Mark moved toward the kitchen, each step echoing in his mind, the need to keep the momentum alive ringing louder than his fears. Meanwhile, as he prepared sandwiches, he watched Hannah gather plates and napkins, her movements light and almost graceful. There was an ease in her presence that had always drawn him in. He felt a surge of affection and fear intertwined. "Do you think we can really find our way back?" he asked, more to himself than to her, but she turned to him, her brow furrowed. "I want to believe we can," she said slowly, her voice steady, but there was a hint of vulnerability buried beneath. "But it's going to take time. I'm willing to try." The sincerity in his voice surprised him. "I don't want Danny growing up wondering what could have been between us." A soft sigh escaped Hannah's lips as she looked away, and he caught a flash of something. Was it fear? Regret? He wasn't sure, but it deepened his resolve. "Let us make today about him," she finally murmured, her smile returning, yet Mark sensed the need for a deeper conversation looming in the air, like a beacon waiting for the right moment to shine. They finished their preparations and set up in their backyard, spreading a blanket over the grass, laughter intermixing with the rustling wind. Danny devoured his sandwich, crumbs scattered like confetti, and the joy radiating from him made Mark's heart swell. As they ate, sharing silly stories and childhood memories, Mark felt the barriers slowly lowering. If he could just open up a little, if he could just take the leap Hannah had suggested earlier, maybe they could weave back the fragments of their past into something new. But as the sun began to dip lower in the sky, painting the horizon with hues of orange and pink, Mark couldn't shake the feeling that they were teetering on a cliff, all balance with no safety net. Would they fall into familiar patterns, or find firm ground where they could rebuild? "Mom, Dad, can you tell me a story?" Danny interrupted, his innocent request drawing their focus back to him. Hannah exchanged a glance with Mark, a silent understanding passing between them. "How about the story of how your dad and I met?" she suggested. Mark's heart raced. That story could either bring them together or highlight their struggles. "Maybe we should wait for another time. No. I want to hear it now," Danny insisted, his enthusiasm relentless. Mark looked into Hannah's eyes, seeking her response. In that moment she smiled, a mixture of warmth and challenge that ignited something within him. "All right," he said, building up his courage. "But it's a story with ups and downs. Are you ready for that?" Danny nodded vigorously, and as Mark began to weave the tale, he felt a sense of freedom reclaiming his voice. He poured out the essence of their history, leaving out the complicated parts but layering in love and laughter. As Danny's eyes sparkled with curiosity, Mark couldn't help but glance at Hannah. Would this story draw them closer to the conversations they both knew needed to happen? Just as he finished, Danny clapped his hands, eyes wide with joy and awe. "That was amazing! You both were heroes." Mark chuckled, but the weight of that title rested heavy on him. Was he deserving of it? Could they be heroes again in their own lives, together? And just then, with the sun setting in the backdrop, casting gold and shadows over the backyard, the air thickened with possibilities. What if today was just the beginning? What if the next step meant unveiling the truth of their hearts to each other again? The notion hung there, suspended like the last rays of sunlight. Would they take that leap? As the last echoes of the story faded between them, Mark felt a warmth blooming in his chest. Danny was beaming, his innocence illuminating the backyard as if it were aglow with fairy tale magic. But a shadow passed over Mark's mind. He could feel the weight of the moment pressing down, a reminder of the reality they faced. "Are you really heroes, Dad?" Danny asked, his small voice filled with awe. "Can we be heroes too?" Mark looked at Hannah, caught in the web of their shared history. "Well, it takes courage to be a hero," he replied, his own voice a little shaky. Sometimes, it means facing fears. Just like you both did to make me. Danny beamed, innocent and unknowing of the underlying tension. Mark's heart twisted. If only Danny knew how much courage that journey would take. He felt Hannah's gaze settle on him, filled with something akin to anticipation, yet also caution. Courage, she murmured softly, almost to herself. Mark couldn't help but cling to that word. Courage was what he'd need to make things right. But what if he failed? Danny, ever the natural light, jumped up on the blanket, arms wide. Then let us be heroes. Should we have a dance party? Both Mark and Hannah laughed, the sound breaking the tension that had begun to creep back in. Oh no, not you again! Hannah teased, playfully swatting her son with a napkin. Last time, our neighbors thought we were hosting a circus. Mark joined in on the laughter, the air around them lightening. The moment felt fragile, but it was real, and maybe that was enough for now. As they danced in a circle, Danny leading the way, there was magic in the laughter that rang out. For a moment, all the doubts and troubles faded under the golden glow of the setting sun. Mark caught Hannah's eye, and in that shared glance, he felt a connection sparking again like the first brush of summer after a long winter. But as the dance ended and Danny plopped back down, breathless and happy, the old fears began to creep back in. Mark's heart raced with what if they tried to reach for more, only to fall apart again. Let us write a hero story together, Danny suggested, still full of energy. About our adventures. Hannah smiled softly. That sounds like fun, Danny. Maybe we can take turns making it up as we go. When Danny bounced back to grab paper and crayons from the house, the air around Mark felt heavy with things unsaid again. The sun was now setting behind the trees, rays of purple and pink spilling into the sky, a stark contrast to the darkness that loomed in his heart. Hannah, he began, his voice barely above a whisper, should we talk about what happened? She turned, a mix of surprise and something deeper flickering in her eyes. Mark, I want to, but I'm afraid. I don't want to ruin this day for Danny, he admitted. The moment hung there, the urgency palpable between them. Would she say what he hoped she might say? Or would they drift back into silence, the very thing that had pushed them apart in the first place? Just then, Danny burst back through the door, arms filled with supplies. Look! I have the perfect stuff. Mark and Hannah exchanged a quick glance, and he felt the weight of the moment shift. All right, Mark said, trying to inject new energy into his voice. Let us be heroes. Right here, right now. As they gathered around the table, crayons flying, laughter filling the air, the tension eased for now. But both Mark and Hannah knew that a turning point loomed just beyond their laughter, only they hadn't quite arrived there yet. What story would they write together? Could they be brave enough to face their past and script a future? With crayons in hand and hearts still threaded with uncertainty, they began to plot their adventure. But somewhere in that optimism, a question lingered: what would happen when the fun faded and the fears began to surface again? The afternoon drifted into evening, the sun painting the sky with splashes of orange and pink. Laughter echoed around the backyard, a delightful melody mingling with the warmth of the fading light. Mark's heart was still dancing from the joy spilling from Danny and Hannah, yet an undercurrent of apprehension tugged at him, reminding him of the conversations waiting just beneath the surface. Okay, heroes, Mark called, a lightness settling over him as he leaned down to Danny. What's our first great adventure? Danny leaned forward, his eyes sparkling with mischief. Let us rescue a princess in another world. He waved his arms dramatically, pointing toward the trees. But first, we need a quest. Mark chuckled, relishing the boy's imagination. A quest it is. But every quest needs a map. He rummaged through the supplies Danny had brought, and found a large piece of paper. Flipping it over, he spread it out on the picnic table, urging Danny to join him as he drew a large, winding path filled with doodles of castles, dragons, and treasure chests. Hannah watched the two of them, a smile playing at the corners of her lips. Watching Mark embrace his role as a dad filled her with warmth, pushing away the shadows that lingered from their past. The ease with which he engaged Danny showed glimpses of the light she had once fallen in love with. Okay, Danny, Mark said, turning back to the boy, are you ready for the most daring adventure ever? Danny jumped up, yes. But we can't forget to set up camp for the night. Our brave heroes need a safe space. Ah, wise decision! Mark exclaimed as he pulled out a blanket, draping it over a low tree branch to create a makeshift tent. Every heroic quest needs a base. As Danny crawled underneath to secure their camp, Hannah joined Mark at the table. Gazing at the drawing, she pointed to the figures in the distance, struggling with the nagging desire to dive back into heavier conversation but unwilling to shatter the magic of the moment. You've really taken to this, she said softly, a hint of admiration twinkling in her eyes. It feels good to be here, you know? Mark admitted. I think I needed this. He caught her gaze, and for a moment, the world around them faded. Yes, she agreed, biting her lip, contemplating the weight of unspoken truths. Sometimes, just being in the moment is what we need. But we should also face the past amidst all this joy. Mark's heart raced, the tension rising between them a familiar dance. I know. It's just he drew in a deep breath. Can we talk about what happened? The past? Hannah nodded, her voice steady yet fragile. I think it's time. But not here. Not in front of Danny. He deserves our best today. Right, he said, swallowing the lump in his throat. Tonight after he goes to bed? Tonight, she confirmed, sharing a small, encouraging smile. At that moment, they both turned toward Danny, who had just emerged triumphantly from the tent, a stuffed toy in hand. Look! Max can be our guard. He is brave. The tension evaporated on a breath as they shifted their focus to Danny, who was now declaring their forest a protective kingdom. Their laughter surged, enveloping them in warmth until the setting sun reminded them of the fleeting beauty of the moment. As the sky turned dark, they shared dinner under the twinkling stars, each meal bite infused with excitement and sweetness. Danny's laughter floated through the air, lifting spirits, painting the night with joy. They shared stories, a blend of whimsical adventures and silly mishaps, each tale binding them closer together. Then, as Danny yawned, cuddling with Max, Mark felt his heart constrict. Looks like our little hero needs to power up for tomorrow. He gently lifted Danny to his feet, who protested sleepily before leaning against his father. Can we do more adventures tomorrow? Of course, Mark promised, his heart swelling as they walked inside. He glanced back at Hannah, their eyes exchanging mutual understanding. Tomorrow awaited, filled with hope and challenges. After Danny's sleepy goodnights filled the space, Mark and Hannah found themselves sitting at the edge of the couch, the moment they had been anticipating looming before them. Are we ready? Mark asked, the air thick with vulnerability. Ready, she whispered, their hands instinctively seeking each other's warmth. Under the faint glow of the lamp, they carefully opened the floodgates to their past, sharing fears, regrets, and the hopes they had both buried yet desperately missed. Words flowed like a river, strong and true, gradually washing away the barriers that had kept them apart. I was afraid of losing myself, Hannah admitted, her voice shaking. I thought you'd never understand the journey I had to take. I was afraid too, Mark confessed, tears pricking at his eyes. Afraid my world had to stay at odds with yours. I never considered we could weave them together. As they spoke, the shadows from their past began to dissolve, replaced with flickering lights of understanding and forgiveness. It wasn't easy. There were painful moments, truths that Raleigh spilled forth, but there was healing in it all too. I miss us, Mark finally said, punctuated with aching honesty. I miss the friendship, the laughter. Can we find that, again? Hannah reached for him, illuminating their fragile, budding love. If we take it slow, we can. We're not perfect, but we can be better together. As dawn broke on a new day, Mark and Hannah shared tentative smiles filled with hope and possibility. They stepped back into a shared future, guided by love, fortified by courage, ready to face their next adventure together. Together as a family. As their hearts began to heal, Mark felt a warm certainty deep within. This was just the beginning, tying together all that was lost into something beautiful and new. Each tick of the clock resonated within him, reminding him that life offered second chances. This was it. The moment to embrace every joy, every laugh, and every tear along the path of rediscovery. And just like that, he smiled a genuine, full-hearted smile, feeling ready to take on whatever lay ahead. Join this journey, and be part of Mark and Hannah's transformation. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. You need to see how their journey unfolds. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. It matters more than you know. Comment below with your reactions and feelings about this ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Only true fans can truly understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.